same worms. These little worms, this is actually the female, and this is the male who lives inside a brood in the female. They actually live in the veins that feed your bladder or your intestines, depending on the type of particular species of worm. And they happily stay together like that and produce eggs over a period. The problem is it takes quite a long period for them to produce these eggs. After, sometimes 40 years, you will get the bladder progressively getting this scarring on it. And then you get symptoms, you'll get bleeding, you'll get incontinence because the bladder's scar tissue instead of elastic bladder tissue. And then they come to the doctor and they say, what's wrong with me? And the doctor has to think, well, it might be something you actually got 40 years ago. Type of infections, the numbers of these are very few. So we actually look through about 10 mils of urine and might find one. And that's a lot to look through when you look at the scale. You see here that little point on them? Sometimes they have a point out here. That's what does all the damage going through the bladder wall because it rips up the bladder on the way through. I find it in the urine. They used to actually have to go and take a sample of the tissue from the bladder itself, an operative specimen. Of course, we prefer the non-invasive specimen. Can't do that, then we have to go up this stage. And you also have a problem in that this almost looks like it's got two spines. It's really hard to identify what particular species it is from a histoprep because they get shrunk up while they're stained. Now they actually have some antigen and antibody tests for that, which make it a bit easier. But that just shows you that sometimes you can't get it one way, you might have to go for another way. SAF, which is a formalin fixative for faeces. This particular trophozoite doesn't have a hardened cyst form. It's really, most of them have a nice hard cyst form to survive in the environment. But this one, if you don't get stooled in half an hour, you don't see it. And it's actually quite a common cause of diarrhoea. I think it might be the main cause of irritable bowel syndrome. And that's just our little friend here. There's another parasite, but he's really cute because he's got a smile in his eyes. And they swim like a falling leaf. Sometimes in the specimen you cannot actually distinguish what it is from the specimen. You need more detail. The case in point is Taenia. All Taenia eggs, in fact, some of the dog tapeworms and rat tapeworms and things, they look like it's just a sphere with some little hooklets inside. But it's really important to be able to distinguish between these two. Now, those have actually been stained up to show the ovaries. In nature, they both just look like little bits of jelly. Sort of like a cold spaghetti noodle, about 1 centimetre long. And we actually have to inject dye through this little pore there to show up the ovaries. And we see, okay, the one with lots of ovaries is beef tapeworm, we don't need to worry. One with a few ovaries is pork tapeworm, we need to worry. Why do we need to worry? Because these things have a life cycle that involves man and animals. When we eat beef improperly cooked, we can get this one, and we'll get the adult tapeworm sitting in our intestines, and it's not going to do much damage to us because it's just a worm eating maybe a little bit of our food. We shed the eggs go into the grass, cow eats the eggs. Problem is, we're very similar to pigs androgenetically. So if we eat pig meat, get the worm, shed the eggs, or have the tapeworm shed the eggs, we can actually eat those eggs from another person or from ourselves, reinfect ourselves. And they can come to the cyst stage inside us instead of inside the pig meat. And that cyst stage is very, very nasty. Each of those little segments there, that's one segment, 2 segments, they actually break off, and they can actually move independently from the rest of the worm. They actually come out of the body, and you may have to look for them in stool samples too. There was actually one case where there was a school assembly, and they had one of these on the floor after assembly, so they would go through every single kid. This is the consequence. All these tiny little dots All these tiny little dots are that pork tapeworm in human meat. And your symptoms are going to be quite complex depending on what bits of your body they happen to have knocked out. They can go anywhere in your body. As far as the parasite's concerned, you're just a piece of meat. The symptoms, if it's in your brain, you'll start getting seizures and blindness and that sort of stuff. If it's in your kidneys, obviously your kidneys will fail, your liver will fail. In your meat, you'll start getting cramp. In your muscles, you'll start getting cramps and things like that. The symptoms will be entirely dependent on what organ it happens to be invaded.
Sorry, how long does it take for the symptoms to develop?
Depends how heavy the infection is. And sometimes they get worsened when they're treated because the sudden death of the parasite means your body reacting more to the dead material, and we'll come to that later with some of the other parasites.